1 Samuel chapter 8. Israel were God's kingdom. He was their king and they were his kingdom. But they come to Samuel and say, we want to have a human king. And Samuel says, and God says to them, but you're rejecting God as your king. Oh, but we want a human king. That's what we want. No matter what reasoning Samuel gave, just like we all do when we want to do something, they didn't pay any attention. They just repeated the same old argument. My desire is for a king. And so God gave them a king, and that is emphasized. God says later, I gave you a king in my wrath. I gave him to you. All the time, yes, God gave them a king. And you're going to read how he called Saul, etc., to be their first king. So God actually gives people what they want. If that is your innermost desire, you'll get it. It's like later David wants to build God a temple, and Israel liked the idea of having a physical temple. But God says, I don't want a temple. I want to live in your heart, in your mind, in your spirit, by my spirit. No, we want a physical temple. Okay. He let them build a temple and filled it with his glory. So God will give you what you really want, but often it is not actually going to help you. Having the temple, the physical temple, actually took them away from personal relationship with God. And it is the same with a human king. The whole system didn't work anyway, and the kingship eventually was overturned. It led them away from accepting God as their king. It's like the father of the prodigal son. He gave the prodigal son what the son demanded, the money, the inheritance ahead of the father's death. And what does he do? Well, he does what the father knew he was going to do with it. Go and blow it on a bad life. So beware of what your dominant desire really is, because you will actually get it. If our dominant desire is, I want above all things to be in God's kingdom, I want to be forgiven, I want to be spiritual, from my absolute heart, I want that. You will get it, because God will give you your heart's desire. He says this in the Psalms. He will give us our heart's desire. So it's important then to actually desire the right thing. And the other thing is, beware of making use of God's concessions. Okay, you can have a king. Okay, you can have a temple. Okay, son, I'll give you my wealth ahead of time. Because it actually makes the path harder.